The unwritten rule of unsolicited advice. In a modern world saturated with information and constant connection, we often believe that being available to help others is a noble thing. However, there is an unwritten rule that few people recognize. The best advice is the advice not given unless explicitly asked for. This isn't just a rule of communication. It's a profound principle of respect, empathy, and personal growth. We tend to act like fixers. When a friend confides in us about their problems, our first instinct is to find a solution. We want to prove our competence, to feel useful, and sometimes to simply alleviate our own discomfort at witnessing another person's pain. This urge stems from good intentions, but it often leads to unintended consequences. We mistakenly believe that advice is a form of care, when in reality, it can be an invisible barrier between two souls. One of the greatest harms of unsolicited advice is that it unintentionally invalidates the other person's feelings. When someone is in a vulnerable state and sharing their pain, they don't need an immediate action plan. They need their emotions to be acknowledged. Rushing to give advice is like saying, "Stop feeling sad, just do this." This sends a message that their emotions are less important than finding a solution, which can make them feel isolated and misunderstood. It forces them into a defensive stance, making them protect their feelings instead of opening up. Furthermore, giving unsolicited advice creates an unequal power dynamic in the relationship. The advice giver is placed in the position of someone with knowledge, someone who knows what's best. Conversely, the recipient of the advice is put in the position of someone weak, someone incapable of solving their own problems. Although you may not intend to, this action can be seen as arrogant or condescending. It erodes trust and the sense of equality that is the foundation of any healthy relationship. People want to be treated as capable adults, not as children who need to be shown the way. What's more, rushing to give advice can take away a person's autonomy and chance for growth. People don't learn by being told what to do. They learn by confronting, struggling with, and overcoming challenges themselves. When you provide a ready-made solution, you remove the valuable lesson they were meant to discover on their own. The process of problem solving is a crucial part of personal growth. Giving unsolicited advice is like solving a math problem for someone instead of teaching them how to think through it. When we truly care about someone, we should have faith in their ability to find their own path. So, if not by giving advice, what should we do? The answer lies in the art of listening. Listening is not a passive act. It is an active skill that requires focus and presence. When someone confides in you, what they truly need is a safe space where they can express themselves without fear of judgment. Instead of thinking about what you'll say next, truly listen to what they are saying. Pay attention to their body language, tone, and the emotions hidden within their words. Use simple but powerful techniques such as paraphrasing what they said. "So you're feeling. Are you saying that?" This shows you're truly listening and helps them feel validated. Asking open-ended questions. How did that make you feel? What's worrying you the most? These questions encourage them to share more deeply, validating their emotions. "I understand, that sounds exhausting. I'm so sorry you're going through this." These words don't offer a solution, but they are incredibly soothing. Empathy is not feeling sorry for someone, but rather the ability to step into their world and see things from their perspective. By listening without judgment, we build a bridge of trust. The other person will feel safe to find their own way, and when they are ready, they will actively seek your input. So when and how should you give advice? Only when they explicitly ask you, "What do you think I should do?" Or, "If you were me, what would you do?" And even then, offer it with humility. Instead of using a demanding tone, use a suggestive, shared experience tone. Start with phrases like, "If you're open to it, I can share something that helped me," or "One thing I've tried is." This approach helps your advice become a contribution, not an imposition. In conclusion, in relationships, silence and genuine listening are often more powerful than 100 pieces of unsolicited advice. That power lies in respect, empathy, and the belief in the other person's capabilities. Instead of being a fixer, be a companion. Be present, listen, and have faith that your friend has the strength to find their own light. Your presence, not your words, is the most valuable gift. The unwritten rule of listening to understand, not to reply. In the dynamic hum of human conversation, we often mistake the act of hearing for the act of listening. We sit across from friends, family, or colleagues, nodding along as they speak, all while our minds are already racing, composing our next sentence, preparing a witty comeback, or formulating a solution to their problem. This is the common, yet flawed, approach to communication. It is a fundamental error that erodes connection and leaves us feeling unheard. The truly transformative unwritten rule of communication is this: you must listen to understand, not to reply. This simple shift in mindset is deceptively difficult to master because it goes against our deeply ingrained conversational habits. We are trained to participate, to contribute, to have something to say. Our ego often demands it. We feel compelled to share our own experiences, to prove our intelligence, or to provide a quick fix. This reply-driven listening model turns a conversation into a competitive sport, a rapid-fire exchange where the goal is to score points with our own words. When a friend shares a story about a difficult boss, our immediate mental reflex is to recall a similar experience and say, "That reminds me of when my boss." This a well-intentioned but self-centered response. It hijacks the narrative, steering the focus away from their pain and onto our own, and ultimately it leaves them feeling invalidated. They didn't share their story to hear a similar one, they shared it to be heard. True listening, therefore, is an act of profound self-restraint and empathy. It is the practice of silencing your inner monologue and opening your entire being to the words, emotions, and unspoken cues of another person. It means holding space for them, creating a safe, non-judgmental environment where they can express themselves fully without the pressure of a looming solution or a planned interruption. This kind of listening is not about being passive. It is an incredibly active and generous act. It tells the other person in no uncertain terms, "I am here with you. Your feelings are valid, your experience matters, and I will be fully present for you." The goal is not to fill the silence with your own thoughts, but to allow their words to breathe, to allow their story to unfold, and to absorb the truth of their experience. The payoff for this intentional effort is immeasurable. When someone feels truly understood, a powerful connection is forged. It builds a foundation of trust that no amount of clever conversation can ever replicate. It is the difference between a shallow acquaintanceship and a deep, meaningful relationship. This is because people don't remember what you said as much as they remember how you made them feel. When you listen to understand, you make them feel seen, valued, and respected. You grant them the dignity of their own emotions and their own process, which is a rare and precious gift in a world that is always in a hurry to offer a quick fix. So how do we transition from listening to reply to listening to understand? It is a skill that requires conscious effort and consistent practice. Embrace silence. The most powerful tool is often a well-timed pause. When the other person stops speaking, resist the urge to immediately jump in. A moment of silence allows them to gather their thoughts and continue sharing, and it signals to them that you are not in a rush to dominate the conversation. Focus on nonverbal cues. Your body language speaks volumes. Maintain eye contact without staring. Nod your head gently to show you are following along, and keep an open posture. Avoid checking your phone or glancing away, as this sends a clear message of disinterest. Practice reflective listening. This is a technique of paraphrasing what you've heard to confirm your understanding. Start with phrases like, "If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that," or "It sounds like you're feeling." This not only clarifies the message but also shows the speaker that you are actively processing what they've said. Ask clarifying questions, not leading questions. Instead of asking questions that push the conversation in a specific direction, e.g., "Didn't that make you angry?" Ask open-ended questions that encourage them to elaborate on their feelings and experiences, e.g., "What was that like for you?" In the end, the unwritten rule of listening to understand is a humbling and transformative one. It forces us to set aside our own agenda and prioritize the needs of the other person. By mastering this skill, we learn that the true power of communication lies not in our ability to speak, but in our capacity to be fully present and to truly hear the hearts of those around us. It is through this act of silent empathy that we not only build stronger relationships, but also gain a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the human experience itself. The unwritten rule of staying humble in success. In the grand narrative of our lives, success is a celebrated milestone. We are told to work hard, to achieve, to reach for greatness. But when we finally stand on the pinnacle of our own achievement, an unwritten rule quietly emerges, a rule that is often overlooked in the glare of the spotlight. Stay humble in success. This isn't just a quaint moral platitude. It is a fundamental principle for sustaining long-term growth and earning genuine respect. The temptation to succumb to arrogance after a victory is powerful. It's a natural human reflex to want to show off, to flaunt our accomplishments, and to feel a sense of superiority. This is the moment when the ego takes over, blinding us to the very factors that helped us succeed in the first place. When success goes to our head, we begin to believe that our achievement was a solitary effort, a result of our unparalleled talent alone. We stop seeing the support from others, the lucky breaks, or the lessons from past failures. Arrogance becomes a self-imposed ceiling, preventing us from seeing our own flaws and, consequently, from growing any further. The social cost of this arrogance is just as high. While success may initially attract admirers, arrogance quickly alienates them. People can sense when they are being looked down upon, and they subconsciously pull away. A person who constantly boasts about their achievements may be impressive for a moment, but they will never be genuinely respected. True respect is not given to those who demand it with a loud voice, but to those who earn it through their character and demeanor. Arrogance creates a fortress around you, preventing feedback from getting in and preventing authentic connection from getting out. You become a monument to your own success, isolated and alone. True humility, on the other hand, is often misunderstood. It is not about belittling your accomplishments or being meek. Humility is about an accurate self-assessment. It is the quiet understanding that your success is a culmination of many things. Your efforts, certainly, but also the guidance of mentors, the support of your team, the lessons from past failures, and even a certain degree of luck. When you are humble, you are grounded in this reality. You recognize that you are a part of a larger ecosystem of help and support, and this recognition keeps you open to learning and open to others. Humility is the sturdy foundation upon which lasting success is built. Arrogance is a house of cards that can be toppled by the slightest breeze of a new challenge or a fresh competitor. So, how can we cultivate this essential quality, especially when the world is urging us to celebrate loudly? It is a practice that requires conscious effort. Acknowledge your debt to others. Make a habit of thanking people. Publicly give credit to your team, your mentors, your family, or anyone who contributed to your success. Mention their specific contributions. This not only shows genuine gratitude but also elevates those around you, making them feel valued and respected. Embrace the student mindset. No matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. Actively seek out feedback, especially from those you perceive as less successful. Ask questions like, "What could I have done better?" Or, "What are your thoughts on this?" This demonstrates that you value others' opinions and are committed to continuous improvement. Focus on the process, not just the outcome. When talking about your success, don't just mention the final result. Share the story of the hard work, the late nights, the mistakes, and the failures that led you there. This makes your achievement more relatable and inspiring, as it shows that you are not a superhero but a human who worked tirelessly to get where you are. Use your success to serve others. The most profound form of humility is using your position to lift others up. Mentor a junior colleague, share your knowledge freely, or use your platform to champion causes greater than yourself. This practice grounds you and reminds you that true success is not about what you have, but about what you can give. In conclusion, while the world may applaud those who reach the top, it is those who remain humble that truly win the game of life. Arrogance is a dead-end street. It may offer a temporary thrill, but it leads to isolation and stagnation. Humility, on the other hand, is a winding path of continuous growth and connection. It is the key that unlocks not just professional success, but genuine, lasting respect from others. It is the unwritten rule that transforms a great achievement into a truly great person. The unwritten rule of not interrupting. In the fast-paced, high-stakes game of modern conversation, a subtle but deeply corrosive habit has become commonplace: interruption. We do it for a variety of reasons, out of excitement, impatience, or the urgent belief that our own thought is more critical than the one being expressed. Yet with every word we cut short, we are sending a powerful and negative message. The truly elegant and respectful communicator understands this fundamental unwritten rule. Do not interrupt when another person is speaking. This principle is not merely about politeness. It is a cornerstone of genuine connection, respect, and effective communication. The urge to interrupt is often rooted in a mix of psychology and reflex. Our brains are incredibly efficient, capable of processing information far faster than a person can speak. This cognitive speed gap can create impatience, a restless energy that makes us want to jump ahead to the point, or, worse, to our own point. We may also interrupt out of a fear of forgetting a brilliant thought that just popped into our head. This anxiety makes us believe that if we don't speak now, the moment and our insight will be lost forever. In a social setting, interrupting can also be a subconscious play for dominance, a way to seize control of the conversation and ensure our voice is the one that is heard. Whether from a place of excitement, anxiety, or a simple lack of self-awareness, the act of interrupting turns a shared dialogue into a fragmented, one-sided performance. Regardless of our intentions, the act of interrupting sends a clear and damaging message to the speaker. It communicates, in no uncertain terms, that their words, their thoughts, and their feelings are not valuable enough to be heard to completion. It's a form of conversational invalidation that says, "What I have to say is more important than what you are saying." This can be a crushing experience for the speaker. It disrupts their train of thought, causing them to lose their momentum and feel flustered. It makes them feel unheard, disrespected, and undervalued. When this happens repeatedly in a relationship, the speaker learns to pull back. They become less likely to share openly and vulnerably in the future, as they come to understand that their voice is not truly welcome. The habit of interrupting, therefore, erodes the very foundation of trust and psychological safety that all healthy relationships are built upon. The antidote to this pervasive habit is not just to wait for the other person to finish, but to embrace the power of the deliberate pause. When a speaker concludes their thought, resist the urge to immediately fill the silence. A brief moment of quiet, a few seconds of breathing room, can be a transformative tool. This pause serves several critical functions. First, it allows the speaker to fully articulate their thought without feeling rushed. They might add a crucial detail or nuance that they would have otherwise left out. Second, and most importantly, the pause demonstrates profound respect. It communicates that you are not just waiting for your turn to talk, you are truly absorbing and processing their words. This momentary silence is a gift to both the speaker and the listener. For the speaker, it is an invitation to continue or to feel the satisfaction of having been fully heard. For the listener, the pause provides a valuable window to move beyond a knee-jerk reaction. Instead of launching into a pre-formulated response, you can use that moment to reflect on what you just heard and formulate a more thoughtful, empathetic, and relevant reply. The pause elevates the conversation from a mere exchange of words to a genuine, two-way act of connection. It is in this shared space of quiet that some of the most meaningful exchanges occur, where true understanding can take root. In the end, breaking the habit of interrupting is a small change with a monumental impact. It requires a conscious effort to override our instincts and to prioritize the other person's voice above our own. By learning to be patient, to listen with our full attention, and to embrace the power of the pause, we signal to others that we value them not just for what they can give to the conversation, but for who they are. This practice transforms conversations from fragmented exchanges into a harmonious dialogue, making others feel genuinely heard and respected. It is through this quiet act of non-interruption that we can truly begin to build deeper, more meaningful connections in our lives. The unwritten rule of always smiling at the service staff. In our busy, goal-oriented lives, we often move through the world with a sense of purpose and urgency. We walk into a coffee shop, our minds already on the next task. We sit down at a restaurant, preoccupied with our dinner companions or the day's events. In these moments, it's easy to see the people who serve us, the baristas, waiters, cashiers, or hotel staff, as little more than a function, an extension of the service we are paying for. They exist to take our order, bring our food, or check us in. But there is a crucial unwritten rule that transcends this transactional mindset. You must always smile at the service staff. This seemingly small act of kindness is not about politeness. It is a profound acknowledgement of another person's humanity and a powerful force for good. Beyond the simple exchange of goods or services, service work can be emotionally taxing and often thankless. The person behind the counter may have already dealt with a dozen rude customers, a misplaced order, or a personal problem at home. They often face impatience, condescension, and a general lack of recognition. In this environment, a genuine smile from a customer is like a small ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. It breaks the barrier of impersonality, instantly humanizing the interaction. A smile tells them, "I see you. You are not just a hand that serves me. You are a person with feelings, thoughts, and a life beyond this counter." This simple gesture of warmth and recognition can be a powerful antidote to the negativity they may have absorbed throughout their day. This act of kindness creates a ripple effect, a small but significant chain reaction. When you are kind to someone, you not only improve their day but also increase the likelihood that they, in turn, will be kinder to the next person they interact with. Think of a barista who receives a genuine, friendly smile and a thank you from a customer. That small act of validation might be just what they need to feel more motivated and positive for the rest of their shift. As a result, the coffee they prepare for the next customer might be made with a little more care, and the smile they give in return might be a little brighter. This positive energy can spread throughout an entire establishment, creating a better atmosphere for everyone, from the staff to the customers who follow. The willingness to smile at and acknowledge service staff is also a fundamental litmus test for one's own character. It is easy to be polite to a boss, a potential client, or someone who holds power over you. Conditional kindness, where you are nice only to those who can benefit you, reveals a self-serving nature. But how you treat someone who can't do anything for you, someone whose role is to serve you, reveals who you truly are. It is an act of genuine humility and empathy. It requires you to step outside your own self-absorption and recognize the inherent dignity of every individual, regardless of their role or status. Mastering this rule demonstrates that your kindness is not a tool to be used, but a core part of your being. This unwritten rule is a gentle reminder that we are all part of a larger community, and every interaction, no matter how brief, has the potential to make an impact. The person serving your food, cleaning your hotel room, or checking you out at the grocery store is someone's child, parent, or friend. They have dreams, challenges, and moments of joy and sorrow just like you. By taking a brief moment to smile, make eye contact, and offer a word of thanks, you are not just being polite. You are affirming their worth and contributing to a more compassionate world. It is a powerful practice that trains your mind to see people, not just functions, and to value human connection above convenience. In conclusion, the unwritten rule of always smiling at the service staff is far more profound than it appears. It is a simple gesture with complex and far-reaching effects. It has the power to validate someone's humanity, to create a ripple effect of kindness, and to serve as a genuine reflection of your own character. So the next time you interact with someone in a service role, remember to look them in the eye, offer a genuine smile, and say a sincere thank you. It may be the easiest and most impactful thing you do all day, the unwritten rule of appreciating compliments. In the grand tapestry of human connection, there exists a simple yet profoundly challenging act: receiving a compliment. It seems intuitive. Someone offers a kind word and you should simply accept it. Yet for many, this seemingly effortless exchange becomes a moment of awkward deflection, a dance of false humility and self-deprecation. We are taught to be humble, but we often confuse humility with the rejection of kindness. This is where a crucial unwritten rule comes into play. You must learn to appreciate and graciously accept a compliment. This isn't an act of vanity. It is an act of grace, respect, and emotional maturity. Our initial impulse to deflect a compliment is rooted in a complex psychological landscape. For one, many of us have been conditioned to believe that accepting praise is a sign of arrogance or pride. We might have heard phrases like "don't brag" or "stay humble" from a young age, and we've internalized them to the point where any positive acknowledgement feels like a transgression. We're also burdened by imposter syndrome, a pervasive feeling that we are frauds and don't deserve the recognition we receive. When someone praises our work, a voice in our head whispers, "They just don't know the full story. They'll find out I'm not that good." This fear of being found out makes us push away the praise, hoping to manage expectations and avoid future disappointment. Additionally, we often fall into a reciprocity reflex. When someone says, "That's a beautiful shirt," we immediately feel compelled to respond with, "Oh, thank you, but I love your shoes." While this seems polite, it can come across as disingenuous, like a conversational tit-for-tat. It detracts from the genuine gift the other person just offered. Furthermore, some people reject compliments out of a deep-seated fear of obligation. They worry that by accepting praise for a job well done, they are creating a future expectation for an even higher standard, adding a new layer of pressure to their lives. All of these subconscious reasons conspire to turn what should be a moment of connection into a missed opportunity, a fleeting gesture of kindness that is immediately rejected. When we deflect or diminish a compliment, we're not just being humble, we're actively causing harm in several ways. Most importantly, we devalue the person who gave the compliment. When you respond to "your presentation was great" with "oh, it was nothing, I just threw it together," you are effectively telling the other person that their judgment is flawed and their opinion is not valid. This can be discouraging and may make them less likely to offer kind words to you or others in the future. It shuts down a potential channel of positive energy. Secondly, it damages our relationships. A genuine compliment is an act of vulnerability and an expression of goodwill. By rejecting it, you are putting up a wall, signaling that you are not open to receiving kindness. This can create a feeling of emotional distance and make the other person feel uncomfortable or even hurt. Finally, and perhaps most detrimentally, it undermines our own self-worth. By consistently deflecting praise, we prevent ourselves from internalizing positive feedback. We deny ourselves the opportunity to build a stronger, more confident self-image. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. We feel unworthy of praise, so we reject it, which in turn reinforces our feeling of unworthiness. Accepting a compliment is a vital part of acknowledging our own value and hard work. It allows us to give ourselves permission to feel proud of our accomplishments, big or small. The good news is that accepting a compliment is a skill that can be learned and practiced. It's not about being boastful, it's about being gracious. Here is a simple three-step approach to mastering this unwritten rule. Step 1. The simple thank you. This is the most crucial part. A sincere and simple thank you is all that is required. It is a complete and perfect response. It acknowledges the other person's kindness, validates their observation, and accepts their gift without any qualification. Practice saying it out loud in different situations until it feels natural. Step 2. Add a brief, sincere follow-up optional. If you feel comfortable, you can add a short phrase that acknowledges their specific feedback or your own effort. For example, "Thank you, I worked really hard on that," or "Thank you, that means a lot coming from you." This shows you're not just performing a social reflex but are genuinely receiving their words. Step 3. Use the power of body language. A simple thank you should be accompanied by a genuine smile and direct eye contact. Your body language should be open and relaxed, signaling that you are comfortable with the positive attention. Avoid looking away, slouching, or fidgeting, as these actions communicate discomfort and rejection. In the end, learning to appreciate a compliment is about understanding that it is a mutually beneficial exchange. The giver receives the satisfaction of having their kindness accepted, and you receive the gift of positive acknowledgement. By simply saying thank you, you are not only honoring the other person's kindness, but also honoring your own efforts and value. This is not an act of arrogance. It is a profound act of grace and a fundamental step toward building deeper, more authentic connections with everyone you meet. The unwritten rule of always keeping your promises, even the smallest ones. In the relentless rush of modern life, where our calendars are overbooked and our attention is constantly fragmented, it's easy to dismiss a small promise as inconsequential. We casually say, "I'll call you back in 5 minutes," "I'll send you that link later," or "I'll be there soon." These are not grand vows but fleeting commitments made in the heat of a moment. However, there is a powerful unwritten rule that defines character and builds the bedrock of human connection. You must always keep your promises, no matter how small they are. This is not just a matter of courtesy. It is a fundamental pillar of integrity. We often fail to keep these minor promises because we assume they don't matter. We are forgetful, we get distracted, or we simply don't place enough value on the other person's time. The mental calculus goes something like this. "It's just a coffee, they'll understand if I'm late," or "It's just a small favor, they won't hold it against me." But what we fail to see is the subtle, cumulative damage that these broken promises inflict. Each time we fail to follow through, we plant a tiny seed of doubt in the other person's mind. It's a subconscious message that says, "Your time is not a priority to me," or "My word is not entirely reliable." Individually, these are insignificant cracks, but over time, they can cause the foundation of trust in a relationship to slowly, imperceptibly crumble. The truth is, a small promise is not just a small promise. It is a litmus test of your character. The way you handle the minor details of your word is a direct reflection of how you will handle the major ones. If a person cannot be counted on to show up on time for a casual coffee, how can they be trusted to show up for a major business deadline or a significant life event? Reliability is not a grand, singular act. It is the sum of countless small, consistent actions. By consistently keeping your word on the small things, you build a powerful reputation for being dependable, honest, and respectful. You send a clear signal that you value not only the other person, but also the very concept of your own integrity. This is the silent currency of relationships, earned through every text replied to, every phone call returned, and every minor commitment fulfilled. So, how do we transform from a person who says, "I'll try," to a person who says, "I will"? It requires a conscious effort to change our habits and our mindset. The say no rule. The most effective way to keep a promise is to not make one you can't honor. Learn to say, "I can't promise that right now, but I'll get back to you," or "I'm not sure if I can, but I'll do my best." It is far better to be honest and upfront than to make a false promise. By managing expectations from the start, you protect both your reputation and the other person's peace of mind. The immediate action rule. If a promise is quick and simple, do it immediately. The time it takes to say, "I'll send you that email later," is often the same time it takes to just send the email right then and there. By acting instantly, you remove the risk of forgetting and demonstrate a high level of proactivity. Use the right tools. We live in an age of technology that can solve our forgetfulness problem. Don't rely on your memory for minor commitments. Use a calendar, a to-do list app, or simply a sticky note to write down every single promise you make. Set a reminder for yourself to follow up. This shows that you take your word seriously and are willing to use all available resources to honor it. The fix-it-fast rule. If you realize you are unable to keep a promise, no matter how small, communicate it immediately. Don't wait until the last minute or simply disappear. A quick message saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot about that link I was supposed to send you. I'm doing it now," can completely restore trust. Taking ownership of your mistake shows that you value your word even when you fall short. Ultimately, a person's word is their most valuable asset. It is the foundation upon which trust is built, relationships are formed, and respect is earned. By making a conscious effort to keep your promises, even the most insignificant ones, you demonstrate a level of integrity that is increasingly rare in our fast-paced world. This is the unwritten rule that separates those who are simply heard from those who are truly trusted. The unwritten rule of embracing awkward silence. In the fast-paced symphony of modern life, silence is often perceived as a void, a glitch in the social matrix that we feel an urgent need to fill. When a pause lingers in a conversation, our hearts race, our minds scramble for a topic, and we desperately jump to say anything, no matter how trivial, just to break the uncomfortable stillness. We are conditioned to believe that a quiet moment is a sign of a failed conversation, a social faux pas that reflects poorly on our wit and charm. But what if this widespread fear of silence is a profound misunderstanding? The truly transformative unwritten rule of human connection is this: you must learn to embrace the awkward silence. Our collective discomfort with silence is rooted in a cocktail of psychological factors. It often stems from a fear of judgment or rejection. We worry that if we don't speak, the other person will think we're boring, unintelligent, or simply not interested. This pressure to constantly perform and entertain turns every conversation into a stage. Our society, through a relentless stream of media and non-stop communication, has taught us that being on is being good, and being quiet is being weak. We mistake the rapid-fire exchange of words for genuine connection, believing that the absence of noise signifies the absence of substance. However, this is where the profound power of silence is revealed. Silence is not an empty space. It is a fertile ground for deeper, more meaningful interaction. By learning to be comfortable in a quiet moment, you unlock a different, far more authentic kind of communication. This is where true connection is forged, not through the words you speak, but through the calm, non-verbal message you send. The hidden power of silence. Silence creates space for deeper thought. When the constant flow of conversation stops, it gives both parties a much-needed moment to breathe and process. Instead of just reacting to the last thing said, you have time to genuinely reflect on the topic, allowing you to formulate more thoughtful questions and more honest responses. It moves a conversation from the superficial to the profound, from casual chit-chat to meaningful dialogue. Silence builds a profound sense of trust. Being comfortable in silence with another person is one of the clearest signals of intimacy and trust. It says, "I don't need to entertain you or impress you. I am simply comfortable being in your presence." This quiet confidence is a powerful and attractive quality. It assures the other person that the foundation of your relationship is not a fragile performance, but a solid, unconditional presence. It's a space where vulnerability can grow because the pressure to fill the air is gone. Silence reveals the truth. A pause can be a powerful truth-teller. In the hustle of conversation, we often avoid difficult topics or push past uncomfortable feelings. A moment of silence gives these unspoken truths a chance to surface. It can be a prompt for the other person to share something they might have been holding back, or it can be a moment for you to notice a lingering emotion on their face that the words didn't convey. In stillness, a lot is communicated without a single word. Silence is a sign of confidence. A person who is not afraid of silence is a person who is not dependent on external validation. They do not need to prove their worth by talking. This quiet self-assurance is compelling. It shows that you are comfortable in your own skin and that your sense of self-worth does not hinge on your ability to entertain others. So how can you practice this unwritten rule and turn a moment of awkward silence into a moment of strength? Start with self-awareness. The next time a silence falls, don't immediately reach for a new topic. Instead, pause. Observe the feeling of discomfort in your own body. Acknowledge the urge to fill the void but resist it. Reframe the silence. Consciously relabel the silence. Instead of thinking, "This is so awkward," think, "This is a pensive moment," or "This is a comfortable pause." Changing your perception will change your emotional reaction. Use silence as a tool. After the other person speaks, allow a full 3 to 5 seconds of silence before you respond. This not only gives them space to continue if they wish, but also shows you are truly processing what they've said. You can also use it to prompt them with a gentle question like, "Anything else on your mind?" Embrace the discomfort. Getting comfortable with silence is like building a muscle. It will feel strange at first. Start small, with trusted friends or family, and gradually work your way up. In conclusion, silence is not an enemy to be conquered, but a friend to be embraced. It is a space for introspection, a stage for vulnerability, and a canvas for trust. By mastering this unwritten rule, you not only transform your conversations from a series of exchanges into a series of meaningful connections. But you also cultivate a powerful sense of inner peace and confidence that speaks louder than any words ever could. The unwritten rule of not complaining about things you can't change. In the daily fabric of our lives, complaining has become as common as breathing. We grumble about the traffic, the weather, the decisions of our government, or the actions of a difficult neighbor. It's a habit that feels good in the moment, a quick release of frustration, a way to connect with others through shared misery. But beneath this seemingly harmless ritual lies a silent poison. The fundamental unwritten rule for a more peaceful and powerful life is this: do not complain about things you cannot change. This isn't about ignoring life's frustrations. It's about reclaiming the energy and personal power that complaining steals from you, one word at a time. At its core, complaining is a symptom of a deeper psychological pattern. It is the language of the victim mindset. When we complain, we are externalizing our unhappiness. We point a finger at a force outside of ourselves, the universe, a person, a circumstance, and declare ourselves powerless. It feels momentarily satisfying because it absolves us of responsibility. It allows us to believe that our unhappiness is not our fault, but a result of something beyond our control. This is a tempting narrative, but it's a trap. It keeps us stuck in a state of learned helplessness, convincing us that there is no action we can take, no solution we can find. Furthermore, complaining can become an addictive cycle. Psychologists have found that when we vent, our brain releases a small amount of dopamine and endorphins, giving us a fleeting sense of pleasure and relief. This biological reward reinforces the behavior, making us more likely to complain the next time we encounter a problem. But this temporary relief comes at a great cost. It hardwires our brains to focus on the negative. We train ourselves to constantly scan our environment for things to criticize, to find fault, and to dwell on what's wrong. This creates a vicious cycle where the more we complain, the more problems we seem to find, and the more we are inclined to complain. The negative consequences of this habit are far-reaching, affecting not just our own mental state, but also our relationships. A perpetual complainer is like a black hole, sucking the energy and positivity out of a room. It creates a toxic atmosphere that repels others and can seriously damage relationships. While a shared complaint can initially bond two people, constant negativity ultimately pushes people away. No one wants to spend time with someone who is never happy and always sees the glass as half empty. The relationships that thrive are built on a foundation of support, encouragement, and a shared focus on finding solutions or peace, not on perpetual misery. Perhaps the most significant consequence is that complaining is a direct distraction from action. The energy and time spent dwelling on a problem and verbalizing our dissatisfaction could be redirected towards finding a solution, no matter how small. Complaining is a passive act. It is a substitute for real work. It is easier to vent to a friend about a difficult coworker than it is to have a direct conversation with them. It is simpler to grumble about a long wait at a restaurant than it is to use that time to read a book or practice a moment of mindfulness. Complaining keeps us fixated on the problem, blinding us to the potential for a solution or, crucially, the path to acceptance. The path to breaking this habit begins with a simple two-part mental filter. When you encounter a frustration, ask yourself these two questions. Can I change this? If I can't, how can I accept this? If the answer to the first question is yes, then your energy must be directed toward action. Don't complain about the messy kitchen. Clean it. Don't vent about being out of shape. Put on your running shoes. This is the simple, empowering exchange of words for deeds. If the answer is no, if the issue is the weather, a global event, or the traffic on a highway, then the path forward is acceptance. This doesn't mean you have to like it. You don't have to agree with a bad situation. Acceptance is simply the act of releasing your internal resistance to reality. It's the peaceful acknowledgement that some things are beyond your control and that you have a choice. You can either waste your energy fighting a losing battle, or you can find a way to live with it. This shift in mindset is incredibly liberating. It frees you from the emotional burden of trying to control the uncontrollable and allows you to focus on the one thing you can always control, your own response. In summary, complaining is more than just a bad habit. It's a silent surrender of personal power. It traps us in a victim mentality, drains our energy, and sabotages our relationships. By applying the unwritten rule of not complaining about things you can't change, you reclaim your agency. You learn to discern between problems that require action and situations that require acceptance. In doing so, you stop being a passive recipient of circumstances and become an active architect of your own happiness and peace. The unwritten rule of genuinely asking, "How are you?" In the grand dance of social interaction, few phrases are as ubiquitous and yet as hollow as "How are you?" We exchange it countless times a day, in passing at the office as a preamble to a phone call, or as we brush past an acquaintance on the street. It has become a robotic pleasantry, a social handshake devoid of genuine inquiry. We don't expect a real answer, and the other person doesn't feel compelled to give one. The ritualistic exchange of "I'm good, I'm good too" is a symptom of a culture that values superficial politeness over true connection. Yet, hidden within this simple phrase is a powerful unwritten rule. You must genuinely ask, "How are you?" and be prepared to listen to the answer. This simple change transforms a common courtesy into an act of profound kindness. When we ask this question with sincerity, we are doing more than just filling a conversational gap. We are extending an invitation. We are opening a door and signaling that we are willing to step outside of the social script, even for just a moment. This act of authenticity is disarming and can create a moment of genuine human connection in a world that often feels rushed and impersonal. By offering a space for vulnerability, we communicate to the other person, "You are more than just a passing face. I see you and I care about how you are truly doing." The psychology behind this shift is rooted in the concept of psychological safety. We all crave to feel seen and valued. When we are met with the perfunctory "How are you?" we feel the subconscious pressure to provide the expected "I'm fine" response, even if we are not. This forces us to hide our true feelings and maintain a facade. In contrast, when someone asks with a quiet sincerity, they create a bubble of safety. They are implicitly saying, "You don't have to be fine for my benefit. Whatever you are feeling is okay." This act of validation is a powerful gift, especially for someone who may be carrying a heavy burden in silence. For them, a simple, heartfelt question might be the only moment of genuine care they receive all day. This unwritten rule isn't about solving someone's problems. It's about honoring their humanity. You don't need to have all the answers or be a therapist. You just need to be present and willing to listen. The person may still reply, "I'm fine," but they will feel the difference in your delivery. They will know that a more honest answer was welcome. This single act of care can strengthen relationships, build trust, and foster a deeper sense of community, one genuine inquiry at a time. It shows that you are not just interacting with a person's role or their persona, but with their whole, complex self. So, how can we make this a conscious practice instead of a thoughtless habit? Be present. The most critical step is to stop. Don't ask the question while rushing past them in the hallway or with your eyes glued to your phone. Make eye contact, even if just for a second. This small physical act signals that you are giving them your full, undivided attention, if only for a brief moment. Vary the phrasing. To break the "how are you?" "I'm good" cycle, try using slightly different questions that require a more thoughtful response. Instead of the standard greeting, ask, "How's your week going? What's been on your mind lately? What's something good that happened to you today?" Or "How are you really doing?" These variations open the door a little wider and encourage a more authentic conversation. Practice the pause. After you ask, resist the urge to fill the silence. Let them think. Don't rush to talk about yourself or move on to the next topic. A brief pause shows that you are patiently waiting for their answer, no matter what it is. It communicates that their response holds weight and importance. Be mindful of timing. You can't ask a genuine question when you don't have time for the answer. Choose your moments wisely. If you're in a hurry, it's better to offer a simple nod and a smile than to ask a question you can't be present for. A sincere "hello" is far more honest than a rushed "how are you?" In the end, the unwritten rule of genuinely asking "how are you?" is a profound reminder that the most significant acts of kindness are often the simplest ones. It requires no special training or grand gestures, only a conscious choice to slow down and truly see the person in front of you. By transforming this common social habit into a conscious act of care, we not only foster deeper relationships, but also contribute to a world where empathy is valued above all else. It reminds us that behind every face, there is a story, and sometimes, all that story needs is an open heart and a genuine question. The unwritten rule of not blaming others. In the landscape of human relationships and personal development, few instincts are as powerful and as damaging as the urge to blame. When something goes wrong, a project fails, a plan falls through, or an argument escalates, our immediate, almost automatic response is to point a finger. It is a deeply ingrained defense mechanism that offers a fleeting sense of relief, a way to absolve ourselves of responsibility. However, the most profound unwritten rule of a well-lived life is this: do not blame others. The psychology of blame is a fascinating, if counterproductive, study. Blame is our ego's first line of defense. It is an intricate shield we deploy to protect our self-image from the sting of failure or the discomfort of imperfection. It's much easier to declare, "It's their fault," than to face the possibility that we played a part in the outcome. This knee-jerk reaction provides a brief but intoxicating illusion of control and righteousness. It allows us to cast ourselves as the victim of circumstance, freeing us from the burden of action and the hard work of introspection. In this victim mentality, we are powerless, and therefore not responsible for a solution. It's a comfortable, yet crippling, trap. This pervasive culture of blame has severe consequences, not just for our personal well-being, but for the health of our relationships and communities. In our personal lives, A constant cycle of blame poisons a relationship. When one partner blames the other for a problem, it immediately shuts down communication. The conversation becomes a zero-sum game of who is right and who is wrong, with each person building their own case and stockpiling evidence. Trust erodes, resentment festers, and true resolution becomes impossible. In the workplace, a culture of blame stifles creativity and innovation. Employees become afraid to take risks or admit mistakes because they know that an error will lead to public shaming or professional consequences. This fear of accountability replaces genuine problem solving, and teams become stagnant and risk-averse. Most importantly, blame is the ultimate enemy of personal growth. When we assign fault to external factors, our boss, our circumstances, our past, we surrender our power. We are essentially saying that our happiness, our success, and our future are determined by forces outside of ourselves. This victim mindset keeps us stuck. It prevents us from learning from our mistakes because we don't believe they are our mistakes to learn from. The truth is, the moment we stop blaming others, we begin to regain control of our own lives. We shift from being a passenger in a car driven by others to being the driver of our own destiny. The antidote to blame is responsibility. This doesn't mean we must accept fault for every unfortunate event. It means we must own our role and, most importantly, our reaction to the situation. Taking responsibility is a powerful act of courage that frees us from the shackles of victimhood. It empowers us to ask, "What can I do about this?" instead of "Whose fault is this?" When we own our mistakes, we turn them into valuable lessons. A failed project becomes a case study in what not to do next time. A difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to refine our communication skills. This mindset transforms a defeat into an opportunity, a setback into a springboard for future success. Cultivating a life free from blame is a conscious practice that requires patience and a deep commitment to self-awareness. It's a muscle that needs to be trained. When a problem arises, pause before you point. Instead of asking, "Why did you do that?" ask, "What is my role in this, and what can I do to help fix it?" Focus on using I statements that express your feelings and actions rather than accusing others. For example, instead of saying, "You made me feel so frustrated," try, "I felt frustrated when this happened, and I want to understand what we can do differently next time." Ultimately, letting go of blame is an act of liberation. It is the first and most crucial step toward taking control of our lives and becoming the person we are meant to be. It teaches us that our past does not define us, our circumstances do not control us, and our mistakes do not diminish us. Instead, they are simply part of the journey. By following this unwritten rule, we not only build stronger, healthier relationships with others, but we also forge a deeper, more resilient connection with ourselves. The unwritten rule of always helping someone in need. In the relentless pace of modern life, we are often encouraged to focus on our own goals, our own schedules, and our own well-being. We are told that our time is a precious commodity, not to be given away lightly. In this self-centered landscape, a powerful yet often forgotten truth exists: the unwritten rule of always helping someone in need. This rule isn't about grand, heroic gestures or sacrificing everything for a stranger. It is about the quiet, conscious choice to defy our natural inclination to look away, and instead offer a hand. It is a fundamental principle that upholds the very fabric of our communities. This rule stands in direct opposition to a powerful psychological phenomenon known as the bystander effect. This effect states that the more people who are present during an emergency or a moment of need, the less likely any single individual is to step in and help. The responsibility is diffused among the crowd, with each person assuming that someone else will take action. We tell ourselves, "I'm not the best person to help," or "someone else has probably already called for assistance." This paralysis is often fueled by a fear of making a mistake, looking foolish, or simply not wanting to be inconvenienced. It is a silent agreement to let someone else handle the problem. The unwritten rule of helping, however, is a conscious and active rejection of this passivity. It is an acknowledgement that your presence is an opportunity and your inaction is a choice. It requires us to overcome our self-centeredness and to take ownership of the shared space we inhabit. The true power of this unwritten rule lies not in monumental acts of heroism, but in the small, everyday moments. It is the simple act of holding a heavy door for someone with their arms full of groceries, offering a seat on a crowded train, or spending 5 minutes to give clear directions to a lost tourist. These small acts may seem insignificant to the person giving the help, but to the person receiving it, they can make all the difference in the world. They are a gentle reminder that they are seen, that they are not alone in their struggle, and that kindness still exists. In a world that can feel cold and isolating, a small act of warmth can be a lifeline. This is the ripple effect of kindness, where one person's willingness to help inspires another, and another, creating a chain reaction that quietly makes the world a better place. The help may not solve the entire problem, but it serves a crucial purpose. It restores hope and validates human connection. But what about the person who is giving the help? The unwritten rule benefits them just as much, if not more, than the person they are helping. Engaging in acts of kindness has a profound and measurable impact on our own well-being. Psychologically, helping others shifts our focus away from our own worries and gives us a sense of purpose and meaning. When we see the positive impact of our actions, we feel a surge of satisfaction that self-focused pursuits often fail to provide. Neurologically, acts of helping trigger the release of feel-good hormones like oxytocin and serotonin, leading to a natural boost in our mood and a reduction in stress. It is a powerful reminder that our happiness is deeply intertwined with the happiness of others. Furthermore, a person who is willing to help is seen as a reliable and trustworthy member of their community, which strengthens their social bonds and deepens their relationships. In the end, the unwritten rule of helping is a conscious decision to participate in the construction of a more compassionate and connected world. It is a commitment to look beyond our own needs and to see the humanity in those around us. It is the antidote to the bystander effect, the fuel for the ripple effect of kindness, and a path to our own sense of purpose. It reminds us that while we may be busy, we always have enough time to be kind. That while we may be focused on our own journeys, we are all part of a larger, shared journey. The moment you see someone in need is not an interruption to your day, but an invitation to be part of the solution. It is a chance to live by a principle that transcends all cultures and all times, a simple, human commitment to lend a hand, the unwritten rule of not sharing other people's personal news. In an age defined by instant connection and the allure of social media, our lives often feel like open books. We are encouraged to share every milestone, every emotion, and every update in real time. This cultural shift has blurred the lines between public and private life, leading to a dangerous assumption that if we know something, it's fair game to share. But there exists a crucial unwritten rule that few people truly grasp. You must never share another person's personal news without their explicit permission. This isn't just a matter of etiquette. It's a profound act of respecting an individual's right to their own narrative. The urge to share can feel overwhelmingly positive. When a friend gets engaged, lands a dream job, or shares news of an impending child, our first impulse is often to become the bearer of good tidings. We want to celebrate with our wider circle, to show that we are in the know, and to participate in the joy. This act gives us a sense of social currency and validation. We feel important because we are the ones delivering the news. We want to demonstrate our closeness to the person and revel in their happiness. However, what feels like a simple act of celebration can, in reality, be a quiet act of betrayal, because it confuses the joy of a story with the right to own that story. The negative consequences of this seemingly harmless act are far-reaching and often go unseen. Firstly, and most critically, it robs the person of their moment. A person has an absolute right to control the timing and manner in which their own life-changing news is shared. They may want to tell their parents in person, surprise a close friend, or simply enjoy the news privately for a while before making a public announcement. When you share their news, whether it's a promotion, a new relationship, or a health update, you steal that moment from them. You take away their chance to experience the genuine reactions of their loved ones and to shape their own narrative in their own way. What was their special moment is now a piece of public information, and they are left to react to a situation they didn't create. Furthermore, sharing personal news without permission, even with the best intentions, creates a deep sense of betrayal. Trust is built on the foundation of confidence, and when you share a piece of information that was privately shared with you, you chip away at that foundation. Even if the person understands your motive, the action can make them feel disrespected and powerless. They entrusted you with something personal, and you treated it like a public commodity. This can lead to a breakdown in communication and a hesitation to confide in you in the future. The message it sends is, "What you tell me is not truly safe with me." Perhaps most importantly, you may not know the full story. A simple piece of news can be layered with emotional complexity. A pregnancy announcement might be tinged with the anxiety of a previous miscarriage. A new job might come with the weight of leaving a cherished team behind. An engagement might have followed years of a difficult relationship. When you share the news in a vacuum, you strip it of all its context and emotional nuance. Only the person themselves can provide that context, and by sharing for them, you risk oversimplifying their journey and their feelings. You also don't know who they have told or who they still need to tell. Perhaps a sensitive family member is the last to know because they have a specific way they want to handle the conversation. By sharing prematurely, you can create awkwardness, hurt feelings, or even family conflict. So, in a world that pressures us to broadcast everything, how do we practice this crucial act of restraint? It comes down to a few simple yet powerful guidelines. The wait for them rule. This is the golden rule. Always wait for the person to announce their own news publicly. If you are not the person whose news it is, you are not the one who gets to tell it. Period. Ask for explicit permission. If a situation arises where you feel you absolutely must tell someone specific, you must ask for permission first. A simple phrase like, "I'm so excited about your news. Are you okay with me telling person X?" puts the power back in their hands and shows that you respect their boundaries. Respect the no. If they say no, respect that decision without question or complaint. Do not press them for a reason. Their privacy is their right. Focus on the person, not the news. When you speak to others, instead of broadcasting the news, talk about the person's character. Instead of saying, "Did you hear Jane is getting married?" Try, "I'm so incredibly happy for Jane." This shifts the focus from the information to the feeling, which is a far more genuine form of connection. Be a keeper of secrets, not a spreader of information. Redefine your role in your relationships. Your value as a friend comes from being a trustworthy confidant, not a news broadcaster. Be the person people can tell anything to, knowing it will be held in the highest regard. In the end, this unwritten rule is a powerful testament to the value of trust and respect. In an age of oversharing, the act of withholding information is a rare and precious gift. It is an act of love that says, "Your story is yours alone, and I will protect it." By mastering this rule, we not only avoid unintentional harm, but also build a reputation as a truly dependable friend, forging deeper, more meaningful connections that will last far longer than any fleeting social media post. The unwritten rule of learning to say no politely. In our quest to be helpful, valued, and well-liked, we often find ourselves caught in a cycle of agreement. We say yes to late-night favors, extra projects, and social gatherings we have no energy for. It feels easier in the moment to simply agree than to navigate the discomfort of refusal. Yet, this constant affirmation leads to a quiet accumulation of stress and resentment. It is a subtle form of self-sabotage that drains our energy and steals our time. The truly liberating unwritten rule of modern life is this: you must learn to say no politely. This isn't a rejection of the person asking, but rather a profound acceptance of your own boundaries and priorities. The struggle to say no is a deeply rooted psychological phenomenon. We are conditioned from a young age to be compliant, to be team players, and to be helpful. Our fear of conflict and our desire to avoid disappointing others can be overwhelming. We worry that a no will be interpreted as a personal rejection, a sign of selfishness, or a betrayal of friendship. For many of us, our identity has become so entwined with being the go-to person that saying no feels like a threat to our very self-worth. It's a risk we're often unwilling to take, preferring to stretch ourselves thin than to face a moment of potential disapproval. Furthermore, in a fast-paced world driven by opportunities, we fall prey to the fear of missing out, FOMO, believing that every yes opens a door and every no closes one forever. However, the cost of a constant yes is far higher than the temporary discomfort of a no. Over time, this habit leads to a state of chronic burnout and exhaustion. Our schedules become a chaotic mix of other people's priorities, leaving no room for rest, reflection, or the pursuit of our own goals. We become emotionally and physically drained, unable to give our best to anything, let alone ourselves. The initial desire to be helpful slowly transforms into deep-seated resentment. We begin to resent the very people we were trying to please, feeling taken for granted and unappreciated. This bitterness poisons our relationships from the inside out. Ultimately, living by someone else's agenda leads to a loss of authenticity. We lose touch with our own needs and desires, becoming a reflection of what others expect from us rather than the person we truly are. Our quality of life diminishes as we exchange what matters most for what feels easiest in the moment. The good news is that saying no is a skill that can be developed. It is an art form that, when mastered, can transform your life and your relationships for the better. The key lies not in the word itself, but in how it is delivered. Be prompt and clear. Don't procrastinate on your answer. A polite but firm no given immediately is far more respectful than a delayed and vague maybe. It saves the other person from holding out hope and allows them to move on and find another solution. Avoid giving vague excuses or leading them on with phrases like, "I'll think about it," if you already know the answer is no. Start with gratitude and empathy. Begin your response by acknowledging their request and expressing your appreciation. A simple "thank you so much for thinking of me for this," or "I'm so honored you asked," immediately softens the refusal. It shows that you value them and their request, even if you can't fulfill it. Provide a concise, honest reason. You do not need to give a lengthy, detailed justification for your refusal. A brief, honest reason is enough. For example, "I would love to, but my schedule is already full," or "I'm currently focusing on a project that requires all of my attention." This shows respect without opening the door for debate or argument. The goal is to inform, not to justify. Offer an alternative if appropriate. If you genuinely want to help in a different way, offer a constructive alternative. You could say, "I can't do that, but I know someone who might be a great fit," or "I can't commit to that now, but I would be available in a few weeks." This demonstrates your helpful nature and willingness to support without sacrificing your own boundaries. Learning to say no is an act of profound self-care. It is a statement that you value your time, your energy, and your mental well-being. It's an acknowledgement that you cannot pour from an empty cup and that you have a right to protect your own resources. By setting these healthy boundaries, you are not closing yourself off from the world. You are, in fact, opening yourself up to a more fulfilling and authentic life. Every time you politely decline a commitment that doesn't align with your priorities, you are saying a much more powerful yes. A resounding yes to your own goals, your peace of mind, and your happiness. The unwritten rule of taking responsibility for your own mistakes. In the landscape of human interaction, few actions are as challenging and as profoundly liberating as the simple act of taking responsibility for our mistakes. Our natural inclination, a defense mechanism rooted in a primal need to protect our ego, is to deflect, to blame, or to justify. We are masters of the if-only narrative. If only they had done their part, or if only the circumstances had been different. Yet, this path of deflection is a dead end. It offers a fleeting moment of relief, but leads to stagnation, resentment, and a profound lack of personal integrity. The truly courageous and transformative unwritten rule of life is this: you must take full responsibility for your own mistakes. This principle isn't about self-flagellation or accepting blame for things beyond your control. It's about recognizing your own role in a negative outcome, no matter how small, and owning it. The blame game is an insidious cycle. In relationships, it creates a toxic environment where trust erodes and genuine communication withers. In a professional setting, it stalls progress, as teams become more focused on pointing fingers than on finding a solution. When you pass the buck, you are essentially saying, I am not in control of my own life. My failures are a result of other people or external forces. This mindset is a trap, robbing you of the power to learn, grow, and improve. The short-term comfort of not being at fault comes at the long-term cost of lost respect, damaged relationships, and a diminished sense of self. On the other hand, the transformative power of ownership is immense. It is the very foundation of respect and trust. When you make a mistake and own it, you signal to others that you are a person of integrity. You show that you value honesty over ego and that you are committed to the truth. This act of courage builds a level of credibility that no amount of success can ever buy. Moreover, taking responsibility is the only true pathway to learning. You cannot fix a problem you refuse to acknowledge. By admitting, I was wrong, you open the door to a deeper self-assessment. You can analyze what went wrong, understand the root cause of the error, and formulate a plan to prevent it from happening again. This turns a setback from a frustrating failure into a powerful learning opportunity. Perhaps most importantly, taking responsibility restores your sense of personal agency. When you blame external factors, you cede your power to them. You become a victim of circumstances. But when you say, "This was my mistake," you are implicitly stating, "I am capable of change. I have the power to fix this and do better next time." This is a profoundly empowering realization. It shifts your focus from what you can't control to what you can, your own actions and your response. This practice also opens the door to forgiveness, both from others and from yourself. A sincere apology and a clear plan of action can mend broken trust far more effectively than any elaborate justification. And by forgiving yourself for your mistakes, you free yourself from the weight of guilt and shame, allowing you to move forward with renewed confidence. So, how do we begin to cultivate this difficult but crucial habit? Acknowledge the feeling. The first step is to recognize the immediate urge to defend yourself. That knot in your stomach, that rush of justification, that's your ego at work. Don't act on it immediately. Take a pause. Reflect calmly. Instead of a knee-jerk reaction, give yourself a moment to breathe and reflect. Ask yourself, what was my part in this? What could I have done differently? This shifts your focus from who is to blame to what can I learn from this. Use I statements. Frame your admission of fault with I rather than you or we. For example, instead of saying the project timeline got messed up, say, I made a mistake in my initial timeline projection. This is a clear, unambiguous signal of ownership. Provide a solution, not an excuse. An apology without a plan is often seen as empty. After admitting your error, immediately follow up with a clear, actionable plan to rectify it. I apologize for the oversight. I'll have that corrected and sent to you by the end of the day. This demonstrates not only that you've taken responsibility, but also that you are committed to making things right. In the end, the unwritten rule of taking responsibility is the hallmark of maturity and true character. It is a practice that requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to be vulnerable. It is the path to authenticity, and it leads to stronger relationships, a more resilient sense of self, and the profound freedom that comes from being the author of your own story, faults and all. The unwritten rule of the thank you note. In a world that moves at the speed of a text message, true gratitude has become a quiet revolution. We live in an age of instant likes and fleeting acknowledgments, where a quick tie or a thumbs-up emoji has replaced the careful expression of thanks. Yet, there is a powerful and often forgotten unwritten rule that separates the truly considerate from the merely polite. You must send a thank you note when you receive help or kindness. This is not simply a matter of etiquette. It is an act of profound respect, an art of acknowledgement that fosters deeper connections and builds a stronger social fabric. The psychology behind this simple act is surprisingly powerful. When someone extends a hand, offers a gift, or gives their time, they are performing an act of generosity. Their action is a conscious choice to invest in you. While a quick verbal thanks is a good start, it often feels as temporary as a passing gust of wind. It doesn't fully validate their effort. A thank you note, however, serves as a tangible, lasting confirmation that their kindness was not only noticed but truly appreciated. It taps into a fundamental human need, the desire to feel seen and valued. People want to know their generosity made a difference and that they weren't taken for granted. To dismiss their effort with a casual "no problem" or to fail to acknowledge it at all can be deeply demotivating. It subtly communicates that their act of kindness was no big deal, which can discourage them from being generous in the future. The thank you note is far more than a simple thanks. Its true power lies in its intentionality and permanence. A text message is fleeting. A handwritten note is a physical artifact of a moment of genuine gratitude. It shows that you took the time to stop, sit down, and reflect on their action. This effort alone elevates your thanks from a simple reflex to a heartfelt gesture. Moreover, a well-crafted thank you note forces you to be specific. Instead of just saying "thanks for your help," you are compelled to articulate exactly what they did for you and the positive impact it had. For example, a note that says, "Thank you for introducing me to Jane. Our meeting went great, and I'm confident it will lead to a new partnership," is infinitely more meaningful than a generic text. This specificity transforms your gratitude from a vague platitude into a sincere, personal acknowledgement that is impossible to ignore. It is a testament to the idea that true gratitude requires thought, not just a quick reaction. Mastering the art of the thank you note means following a few practical rules that ensure your message lands with the full weight of its sincerity. Rule 1. Be timely. The impact of a thank you note is most powerful when it arrives soon after the act of kindness. This shows that your gratitude is fresh and that you didn't let the moment pass you by. Aim to send it within a week of the event. Rule 2. Be specific. As mentioned before, detail is everything. Mention the specific favor, gift, or advice given. Describe the positive outcome or how their action made you feel. This level of detail shows that you were truly paying attention and that their effort was significant to you. Rule 3. Be sincere. Your tone should be genuine and heartfelt. Avoid using pre-written templates or generic language. Write in your own voice. A few authentic sentences are always better than a long, impersonal paragraph. Rule 4. Choose the right medium. A handwritten note is the gold standard. It's personal and physical in a digital world. It stands out and is often kept for a long time. However, a well-written email is a perfectly acceptable alternative, especially for business contexts or when time is of the essence. A text message, while quick, should only be used as a last resort and for very minor favors. Rule 5. Be concise but meaningful. A thank you note does not need to be an essay. It should be brief and to the point while still conveying your heartfelt appreciation. 2 or 3 thoughtful sentences are often enough to make a powerful impact. Ultimately, the unwritten rule of the thank you note is a small act with an enormous return. It requires only a few minutes of your time but has the power to strengthen relationships, build trust, and cultivate a culture of gratitude. In a world where genuine human connection is becoming increasingly rare, taking the time to acknowledge someone's kindness is an investment in the social capital that binds us together. It is a quiet reminder that our actions matter, our generosity is valued, and the bonds we forge are the most meaningful rewards of all. The unwritten rule of not comparing your life to others. In a world defined by likes, shares, and curated highlight reels, the habit of comparison has become a global epidemic. From career milestones to vacation photos, we are constantly measuring our own worth against the perceived successes of others. It's an easy trap to fall into, a subconscious habit fueled by the endless stream of carefully selected moments on our screens. This insidious practice is a silent thief of joy, a self-sabotaging habit that leads to a profound sense of inadequacy. The crucial unwritten rule for true contentment is this: do not compare your life to others. The urge to compare is deeply rooted in human psychology. For millennia, we have relied on social comparison as a tool for self-evaluation and survival. By observing where we stand in relation to others, we gauge our own progress and social standing. However, in the age of digital media, this ancient instinct has been weaponized against us. We are no longer comparing ourselves to our immediate neighbors and colleagues. We are comparing our raw, unfiltered, everyday struggles to the meticulously edited and professionally photographed best moments of thousands of strangers. This creates an impossible and utterly distorted benchmark. We see someone's successful career without seeing the years of failure and late nights. We see their flawless vacation without seeing the stress of planning or the unexpected flight delays. We are comparing our blooper reel to their movie trailer, and it is a battle we are destined to lose. This habit of constant comparison poisons our mindset in several destructive ways. First, it breeds resentment and envy. When we are caught in the cycle of comparison, we stop celebrating the successes of others and start resenting them. A friend's promotion, a colleague's new house, or a peer's beautiful family can become sources of bitterness rather than joy. This breeds a cynical outlook that not only isolates us, but also blinds us to the good fortune of others. We become so focused on what we lack that we forget to be happy for those around us. Second, the habit of comparison is a direct pathway to anxiety and depression. When you measure your own progress against an impossible standard, you inevitably feel like you are falling behind. This creates a constant, low-level hum of anxiety, a gnawing feeling of inadequacy that never seems to go away. It can lead to imposter syndrome, where you feel like a fraud even when you are successful, because you're convinced everyone else is doing it better. This constant state of feeling not good enough is a corrosive force that eats away at self-esteem and can lead to a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. Most importantly, comparing yourself to others stifles your own unique journey. When you are obsessed with following someone else's path, you lose sight of your own. Your life is a unique story with a distinct timeline. You have your own set of strengths, passions, and goals that are different from anyone else's. By constantly trying to replicate someone else's success, you deny yourself the opportunity to discover what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. You might be an artist trying to be a CEO, a writer trying to be a public speaker, or a quiet soul trying to be an extrovert, all because you believe that's what success looks like. The most fulfilling life is one lived authentically on your own terms and according to your own unique blueprint. Breaking the habit of comparison is not easy, but it is one of the most liberating things you can do for your mental health. It requires conscious effort and a deliberate shift in perspective. Acknowledge and redirect. The first step is awareness. When you catch yourself scrolling through social media and feeling a pang of jealousy or inadequacy, stop. Acknowledge the feeling without judgment. Then, consciously redirect your attention. Remind yourself that you are seeing only a small part of someone's life and turn your focus back to your own goals and progress. Cultivate gratitude. Comparison focuses on what you don't have, while gratitude focuses on what you do have. Make it a daily practice to list a few things you are genuinely thankful for. It can be as simple as the warmth of your coffee, the support of a friend, or the beauty of a sunset. This practice retrains your brain to appreciate your own blessings, no matter how small they may seem. Be mindful of your social media consumption. Social media is not inherently bad, but it can be a breeding ground for comparison. Curate your feed. Unfollow accounts that make you feel worse about yourself. Seek out content that is genuinely inspiring and educational rather than aspirational and unattainable. Consider setting time limits on social media apps to reduce your exposure to triggers. Focus on your own journey. Remember that the only person you should ever compare yourself to is your past self. Are you kinder, more resilient, or more knowledgeable than you were last year? Celebrate those wins. Your timeline is your own. Your chapter 5 might look completely different from someone else's chapter 15. Trust your process and celebrate every step of your unique path. Ultimately, the true measure of a successful life is not a comparison to others, but a deeply personal feeling of contentment and fulfillment. It's about building a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. By embracing this unwritten rule, you free yourself from the endless cycle of comparison and give yourself the greatest gift of all: the ability to appreciate your own beautiful, imperfect, and entirely unique story. The unwritten rule of making others feel comfortable in your presence. Some people possess a rare and invaluable quality, an effortless ability to make others feel completely at ease. They aren't necessarily the most charismatic or the loudest in the room, but their presence acts like a soothing balm, melting away awkwardness and apprehension. This is the essence of an unwritten social law, the unwritten rule of making others feel comfortable in your presence. This rule isn't about being a comedian or the life of the party. It's about radiating a sense of safety, acceptance, and ease that invites others to drop their guard and simply be themselves. In many social situations, we are conditioned to be on guard. Our minds are constantly scanning for threats, real or perceived. We worry about saying the wrong thing, about being judged for our appearance, or about not fitting in. This internal monologue creates a palpable sense of tension. The person who has mastered this unwritten rule understands this and actively works to dismantle that tension. They recognize that true connection cannot flourish in an atmosphere of anxiety, and that the greatest gift they can give another person is the freedom to be authentic without fear. When you meet someone who exudes this quality, you don't feel pressured to perform or impress them. You feel seen, accepted, and fundamentally safe. This quality is a powerful magnet for meaningful relationships, as it speaks to a deep human need to belong. What then are the core psychological elements that create this sense of comfort? It comes from a place of genuine empathy and self-awareness, built on three key pillars: active listening, non-judgment, and a touch of vulnerability. First, active listening and presence are paramount. Most of us are so consumed with our own thoughts and insecurities that we are only half listening to what others say. A person who makes you feel comfortable, however, is fully present. They don't just hear your words, they absorb them. Their focus is unwavering and their interest feels genuine. This act of giving your full attention is a silent declaration that the other person is important. It tells them, "I value what you have to say, and I'm not in a hurry to move on to my own thoughts." This kind of listening makes others feel significant and validated, which is one of the most comforting feelings in the world. Second, the foundation of comfort is an absolute absence of judgment. People are acutely sensitive to the subtle cues of disapproval: a raised eyebrow, a dismissive tone, a fleeting look of surprise. The individual who masters this rule has trained themselves to suspend judgment and to radiate an energy of radical acceptance. They don't analyze your words for hidden meanings, they don't critique your choices, and they don't compare you to others. Instead, they create a space where you can share your thoughts, fears, and even your flaws, knowing that they will be met with acceptance, not with a silent tally of your shortcomings. This non-judgmental stance is a rare and precious gift that allows others to breathe easy and be themselves without the weight of scrutiny. Finally, a touch of vulnerability can be a powerful bridge. We often believe that to appear strong and capable, we must hide our imperfections, but in doing so, we create a wall. A truly comforting person knows that sharing a small, personal detail or admitting a minor mistake can create an immediate sense of connection. It shows that you are not a flawless entity but a real person with your own struggles and insecurities. When you say, "I'm a little nervous about this too," or "I completely forgot what I was going to say," you give the other person permission to be imperfect as well. This small act of vulnerability dissolves social barriers and creates a mutual sense of shared humanity. How can one actively cultivate this quality? It is a skill built on a series of small, intentional actions. Ask open-ended questions. Shift the focus away from yourself by asking questions that require more than a yes or no answer. Instead of "Did you have a good day?" try "What was the best part of your day?" or "What was something that made you smile today?" Use open body language. Simple physical cues can make a huge difference. A genuine smile, an open posture, uncrossed arms, and leaning in slightly when someone speaks all signal warmth and approachability. Find common ground. Quickly look for shared interests, even small ones, to build a quick rapport. It could be a love for a particular movie, a shared experience with public transport, or a common struggle with technology. Remember names. A person's name is one of the most comforting and personal sounds they can hear. Making a conscious effort to remember and use someone's name shows that you see and respect them as an individual. Mirror their energy. Without being a mimic, try to match their general energy and pace. If they are quiet and calm, you can be too. If they are more energetic, you can match that to a degree. This subtle synchronization creates a feeling of harmony and rapport. In the end, the unwritten rule of making others feel comfortable is not about a grand performance. It's about a series of consistent, small acts of kindness, empathy, and humility. It is a quality born from a deep sense of self-awareness and a genuine desire to connect with others on a human level. By mastering this rule, you become not just a person who is well-liked, but a person who is truly valued and sought after, because you have given others the most precious gift of all, the freedom to be themselves, the unwritten rule of giving without expecting anything in return. In a world driven by transactions, where we are conditioned to believe that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, it's easy to fall into the trap of conditional giving. We help a friend move, expecting they'll be there for us when we need to. We buy a thoughtful gift, anticipating a similar gesture in return. We offer a compliment, hoping to receive one back. Our relationships, in this view, become a ledger of debts and credits, a constant tally of who owes whom. This transactional mindset is not only exhausting, but also a source of constant disappointment and resentment. The truly transformative, unwritten rule of human connection is this: you must give without expecting anything in return. The psychology behind our need for reciprocation is complex. It's tied to our sense of fairness, our need for validation, and a fundamental fear of being taken advantage of. We believe that if we give freely, we risk being seen as a doormat, or that our efforts will go unappreciated. So we give with invisible strings attached. We place a silent, unspoken burden on the recipient, a debt they must repay. We then find ourselves constantly waiting for them to make good on this debt. The resentment festers when the return is not what we expected, or when it never comes at all. The very act of kindness, which should be a source of joy, becomes a source of bitterness. The relationship is no longer a genuine bond of care, but a strained, silent negotiation. True giving, however, is a profound act of freedom and self-liberation. It is a one-way street of generosity where the joy is in the giving itself. When you offer a genuine compliment, help a stranger with a heavy bag, or lend an ear to a friend, the act is complete the moment it is done. The feeling of purpose, the sense of connection, and the quiet satisfaction you receive are the only rewards you need. You are no longer a hostage to expectations, no longer a slave to disappointment. This practice frees you from the anxiety of tracking every little thing you do for others. It transforms your relationships from transactional agreements into authentic expressions of mutual care. The focus shifts from "what will I get out of this?" to "what can I contribute here?" The power of giving without expectation lies in its ability to fill you with a deep sense of fulfillment that no external validation can match. It allows you to express your true, generous nature without censorship. It is an acknowledgement that your worth is not defined by how others respond to your kindness. When you give for the sake of giving, you are not seeking approval. You are simply being who you are. The act becomes its own reward, and that is a far more lasting and meaningful source of happiness than any reciprocal gesture. This is the heart of true generosity. It is born from a place of abundance, not a place of scarcity. So how do we practice this transformative rule in our daily lives? Start with small acts of kindness. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Hold the door for someone, offer a genuine smile, or simply send a text to a friend saying you're thinking of them. These small acts are powerful because they are easy to give without expectation. Give a piece of yourself, not just material things. The most valuable things you can give are often intangible: your time, your undivided attention, your empathy, or your unique skills. Offer to teach a friend something you're good at, or simply sit with them in silence when they are hurting. These gifts are priceless and inherently unconditional. Check your motives before you give. Before you offer to help someone, take a moment to ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely want to help them, or because I want them to owe me something? This self-awareness is the first step toward true giving. If you find your motives are not pure, it's a chance to reframe your thinking. Practice detachment from the outcome. Once you have given, let it go. Your job is done. The recipient's reaction is no longer your concern. This detachment is not about being cold or uncaring. It's about protecting your own peace of mind and respecting the other person's freedom. In conclusion, the unwritten rule of giving without expecting anything in return is a path to both greater peace and stronger, more authentic relationships. It teaches us to break free from the burdensome cycle of expectation and resentment. By embracing this rule, we learn that the true joy of giving is found in the simple act itself. It is through this radical act of selfless generosity that we not only enrich the lives of others, but also discover a profound and lasting source of fulfillment within ourselves. The unwritten rule of forgiving small mistakes. In the grand tapestry of human relationships, the threads that bind us most tightly are woven with trust, shared memories, and a deep emotional investment. These are the connections with our loved ones, our partners, family, and closest friends. It is a curious and often painful paradox that while these relationships are the most important, they are also the most fragile when it comes to small, everyday imperfections. We often hold those closest to us to an impossibly high standard, and in doing so, we fail to recognize a fundamental unwritten rule. You must forgive the small mistakes made by loved ones. This isn't about ignoring major transgressions, but about gracefully letting go of the tiny, repetitive flaws that are part of being human. Why are we so much harder on those we love? The psychology is complex. We expect more from them because we have given more of ourselves. Their actions are not just observed, they are felt on a deeply personal level. When a stranger cuts us off in traffic, it's an annoyance. When a loved one does something thoughtless, like forgetting to take out the trash for the 10th time or leaving a wet towel on the bed, it's not just a mistake, it feels like a personal slight. This is the accumulated resentment trap, where a minor, seemingly harmless oversight becomes the symbol of a deeper, unspoken frustration. The issue isn't the towel, it's the perceived lack of care, the broken promise, the erosion of a trust that we hold so dear. We carry this emotional baggage from one minor offense to the next, making new mistakes feel much bigger than they actually are. The cost of holding onto these small resentments is devastatingly high. It's like a slow poison that erodes the foundation of a relationship from the inside out. When we refuse to forgive the little things, we create a toxic environment built on tension and passive aggression. The air becomes thick with unspoken frustration. We may not argue, but we distance ourselves, closing off emotionally as a form of silent punishment. This refusal to let go blocks intimacy, preventing true vulnerability and connection. The person we love becomes a list of their flaws in our minds, a source of constant irritation rather than a source of joy. Perhaps most importantly, Holding onto anger and resentment hurts us more than it hurts them. It fills our minds and hearts with negativity, robbing us of peace and contentment. As the saying goes, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The art of letting go is a conscious and active choice. It is not something that happens to you. It is something you must do. The first step is to acknowledge the feeling without judgment. Don't pretend you aren't annoyed by the wet towel. Acknowledge the frustration. I'm a little frustrated about this. But then consciously decide that it is not worth holding on to. Remind yourself that this person is human, they are fallible, and they are doing their best. Shift your perspective from their imperfection to your gratitude for their presence in your life. Remember all the ways they bring you happiness, support you, and make you feel loved. If the issue is a recurring pattern, forgiveness doesn't mean ignoring it. It means communicating about it with grace and love. When you bring it up, do it calmly and at a time when you are not frustrated. Use I statements to express your feelings without accusing them. I feel frustrated when the towel is left on the bed. Instead of you statements that put them on the defensive, you always leave the towel on the bed. This approach invites them to partner with you in finding a solution, rather than making them feel like they are on trial. Ultimately, this unwritten rule is a gift we give to both our loved ones and ourselves. By choosing to let go of the small mistakes, we create a space for peace, joy, and unconditional love. We build a sanctuary where minor flaws are met with patience and understanding, not judgment and resentment. It is a continuous practice of seeing the bigger picture, a recognition that the minor imperfections of the people we love are insignificant compared to the immeasurable value of their presence in our lives. This practice is the cornerstone of a lasting, healthy relationship, and it is a powerful reminder that love, at its core, is a daily act of forgiveness, the unwritten rule of not apologizing for self-care. In a world that glorifies being constantly busy, we have been conditioned to wear our exhaustion as a badge of honor. Our calendars are packed, our phones are always on, and our to-do lists seem to grow longer by the day. Amidst this relentless pace, there is a quiet, powerful act that feels almost rebellious, taking time for ourselves. Yet when we choose to do so, a strange impulse overtakes many of us. We feel compelled to apologize. We say, "I'm so sorry I can't make it, I'm just feeling run down." Or, "I'm sorry, I have to take a break from my phone." This behavior stems from a deeply ingrained belief that our well-being is a secondary concern. The powerful unwritten rule we must learn to embrace is this: you do not need to apologize for taking care of yourself. This urge to apologize for self-care is rooted in a complex web of cultural and psychological pressures. For generations, society has praised the martyrs, those who sacrifice their time, energy, and happiness for the sake of others. We're taught that being a good friend, family member, or employee means putting others' needs before our own, to the point of self-neglect. This leads to a pervasive self-care guilt, a feeling that taking a moment to rest, recharge, or simply be alone is a selfish act. We fear being seen as lazy, uncaring, or unreliable, so we offer an apology as a preemptive defense, a way to signal that we know we're breaking the unspoken social contract of constant availability. The consequences of continually apologizing for self-care are far more damaging than we realize. First and foremost, it contributes directly to burnout. When we ignore our need for rest and continue to push ourselves past our limits, our physical and mental health inevitably suffer. The nervous system becomes perpetually stressed, leading to exhaustion, anxiety, and a diminished ability to handle challenges. Furthermore, constantly giving without replenishing can lead to a quiet, simmering resentment toward those we feel we are sacrificing for. We may begin to feel resentful toward a friend who asks us to hang out when we're already tired, or a coworker who requests help on a project when we are already overloaded. Most importantly, apologizing for our needs chips away at our sense of self-worth. Each time we say, "I'm sorry," for choosing our well-being, we are sending a subtle message to ourselves and others that our needs are somehow lesser or not as valid as their requests. It teaches us that our own time and energy are not inherently valuable, but are commodities to be dispensed with a sense of guilt. This can lead to a cycle of overcommitment and underappreciation, where we are left feeling drained and undervalued, all because we never learn to set and hold firm boundaries without a feeling of remorse. To break this cycle, we must reframe self-care as a necessity, not a luxury. Think of it not as a reward for hard work, but as a fundamental tool for sustainability. Just as a car cannot run on an empty tank, we cannot continue to function effectively without periodically refueling our own mind, body, and spirit. Self-care is the very act of filling that tank. It is not selfish. It is what allows you to show up as the best version of yourself for others. True selfishness takes from others. True self-care replenishes your capacity to give to others without burning out. So, how do we put this rule into practice? The key is to communicate our boundaries with clarity and confidence, replacing apologies with simple, unapologetic statements. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry, I can't, I need a quiet night," try, "Thank you for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it." When a friend asks what you're doing this weekend and you plan to simply rest, you don't need to justify it. You can simply say, "I'm looking forward to a quiet weekend to recharge." This kind of communication respects your own needs while still showing gratitude and respect for the other person. The beauty of this unwritten rule is that it gives you permission to be fully human. It allows you to honor your own rhythms, your need for solitude, your desire for quiet, and your fundamental right to rest. It is a powerful act of reclaiming your time and energy, recognizing them not as finite resources to be squandered, but as sacred aspects of your life to be protected and nurtured. By mastering this rule, we give ourselves the freedom to live a life that is not only productive but also deeply fulfilled and truly sustainable. We learn that sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do for others is to first be compassionate with ourselves.